Hello and welcome to this preview of Sibos 2015 Singapore. My name is Brian Caplen, I'm editor of The Banker, and with me to discuss this year's Sibos agenda is Swift's chief executive, Gottfried Leibbrandt. Now, Gottfried, Swift is always about, and Sibos is always about technology and innovation. So what do you expect to be the key items in this area in Singapore?
Fintech in general, so the whole new startups, new technology to do what banks traditionally have done, peer-to-peer lending, payments, what have you. I'm sure the blockchain will be part of the discussion. Is it a technology that can solve real industry problems, applying it not just to payments, but to maybe cross-border securities custody? Maybe it could be a solution to the reference data problem. Maybe it can help a number of real issues that the industry has struggled with, collateral management. We can name them. There are real challenges that the banking system faces, and one of the key focuses will be how can new technologies, one, help solve these problems, and the other one is obviously disruption. Which of these technologies could really disrupt banks as they've traditionally been, and what can banks do to sort of deal with that threat or that challenge, if you will?
I mean, if we talk about blockchain, I mean, when we're in the realm of Bitcoin, people think, well, that's all a bit fantastical and it obviously has security and sort of legal issues attached to it. But when we drill down into blockchain, then you find that the banks are starting to work on this as an area that could transform things, and particularly in trade finance. I mean, what sort of impact do you think it could have?
I don't know. I wouldn't belittle Bitcoin too much. I mean, will it be a global currency like the US dollar? Probably not. But in its niche, I have to say, if I could urge everybody to download a Bitcoin wallet and play with it. I've done it myself a few years back, and I found the experience is really interesting. Yeah? On your iPhone, you can send money to anybody anywhere in the world, which is a very interesting way of doing it. So I would everybody to urge go through the consumer experience. On the blockchain itself, we'll see there's huge investment going into it right now. I'm still, there will be challenges to solve, as we've now seen with that discussion over the block size. How can we scale it up to deal with higher transaction numbers than originally planned for? Another interesting area I've always found is what about the mining cost? In the current Bitcoin scheme, they pay about 1% of daily transaction volumes to the miners. That's a significant transaction cost, 1% for everybody who's done payments. You know, that sort of rings a bell. So that will be an interesting one to solve. The other one that I always find fascinating is, by definition, the ledger is public. It's a public ledger. That means that all the information in it is public. And yes, you can work with encryption, etc. But part of the value is that it's, you share the ledger and therefore the information in it. How do you deal with that in areas where some of the information may be confidential, in securities transactions or whatever? I mean, I'm not sure all the information you really want to be public at the end of the day. So I think there are some interesting challenges. At the same time, it's a very promising technology, and the investment in it.
All right, but let's drill down, especially on the trade finance, because I read a piece that said, well, if you put blockchain and Internet of Things together, you could have, remote physical checks of cargo coming into ports, and you wouldn't need bill of ladings, you wouldn't need the same level of documentation. I mean, do you think it'll be as revolutionary as that?
It could be. I'm probably showing my age if I'm a little skeptical around bills of lading. There was something called Bolero before I joined Swift, where Swift invested in, and the whole promise was to electronify the bills of lading and all these poor documents. And that has proved to be much more tenacious than people thought at the time. This was in the early days of the internet. You could put all that stuff online. Why do we need paper and all these? And it's proven very difficult to get rid of that, partly because of legal requirements that still require the physical paper. But perhaps the technology is now ripe, and minds are ripe to give it another shot.
And what impact do you think it would have on Swiss business?
It'd be interesting. Trade for us, at the end of the day, the documentary trade is less than 1% of all Swift messages. So there, I think the impact will be limited. For us, the big, both on let's say the threat side and the opportunity side. On the threat side, correspondent banking is one that we look at. It should not be a given that it is the best way of doing cross-border payments, and let's see at other ways of doing it. On the opportunity side, I think there are lots of things for us to help our banks cope with the challenges. And again, the real-time payments system in Australia would be a good example of that, where banks are building a real-time settlement, national infrastructure, and we're providing the plumbing for that. So I think there's lots of opportunities to work with our banks, embrace this technology to, at the end of the day, give the consumer and businesses better value for their money.
Exciting stuff.
Thank you.